Hi, welcome back to Lady in the Stamp. It's a technique where you mix together different colors of acrylic paint and you pour them on canvas. There are tons and tons of videos on YouTube where you can look at this technique, but I stumbled across one a few weeks ago where you poured the paint on rocks and you get these amazing effects. Now this is just my first attempt at doing this, and you can see you can just get lots of different effects with the paint when you pour these over the rocks. So we're going to take you step by step through this process, and I hope you have fun with it. Okay, now I'm going to go through all the supplies that you'll need to do today's video. First of all, we have just some acrylic canvases. I got these at Michael's, or you can, sometimes they have them on sale. So just a regular acrylic canvas, any size. You can do small, large. This is an 8x8, but different sizes work as well. Also, I just collected a bunch of rocks. Now, I've already gone ahead and painted these rocks white to have a base canvas to work from. But to start with, you want to wash your rocks in some water mixed with just a tiny bit of bleach, just in case they have any type of moss or anything on them. So wash them, let them dry thoroughly, and then paint them with a white acrylic paint. Next, to actually do the acrylic pouring, you need acrylic paints. So this is just a collection of different colors of acrylic paints that I've collected for different projects over the years. You can use any brand, but they do need to be acrylic. You can also get a lot of these acrylic paints at the dollar store, so you can do this project pretty inexpensively. You need some stir sticks. I got this big package of stir sticks at the dollar store, and we're going to use those when we mix up the paint. Next, you need a pouring medium. This is called Floetrol, and I got this off of Amazon. But as I said earlier, there are lots and lots of videos on YouTube about this technique. So you'll see some techniques where they're instead of Floetrol, they use Elmer's glue mixed with a little bit of water, and that works just as well too. Since I was going to be doing a lot, I went ahead and bought this off of Amazon. But if this is something you think you want to try, I encourage you to look at all the different videos that are out there on YouTube. You need rubber gloves, some tin foil. This is a package of tin foil sheets that I got from from the dollar store. And what I do is I crumple those up, and you set your rock on top of that, so you have kind of a platform for your rock when you pour the paint over it. You need some mixing cups, large ones and some small ones. And then last, you need some cookie sheets or some sort of tray to put your canvas on while you're pouring the paint over it, and then you can let it set and dry. Again, these are all things from the dollar store, so pretty inexpensive. And last, if this isn't optional, but to get some of those great cells, you can get some cell techniques where the cells of paint kind of open up, and that's created by adding a little bit of silicone to your paint mixture. And that, again, like I said, it's optional, but it does add kind of a fun, another visual effect on your canvas. Okay, we've started assembling the things we'll need to do for our acrylic pour, and we've pre-mixed some of our paints with the Floetrol and the acrylic paint. So as you can see, what you do is you mix, put a little bit of paint in the cup and then add the Floetrol till you get the consistency of, like they say, buttermilk, thick milk, or thick cream, I mean. And what the Floetrol does is it thins the paint without changing the color. So we're going to show you how to do the gold for this. I'm going to put a little bit of gold into my cup, and then I'm going to add the Floetrol. We'll just pour this in, and then we're going to stir it up. And it mixes, and you can see that the color remains unchanged. And that's still a little bit thick, so I'm going to add some more Floetrol. And that's better. We're going to keep mixing that. until it's thoroughly blended. And there we go. Okay. Set the Floetrol aside. And then just a word about the canvas. What I've done is taken 4 of these little plastic cups and turned them upside down to create legs for the canvas to sit on. But you also want to make sure that your surface is level. So, because this is going to take probably a couple of days to dry, and as it dries, you don't want it sitting off at the side. And if it's tilted at an angle, your paint is going to shift in that direction. So you want to have it level. Now to get started, we're going to begin mixing our, pouring our paints into our pouring cup. So I have some white, some dark purple, some dark blue, some dark green, and some gold. These are all colors that Shane chose, so he can hang this in his room when it's done. And I'm going to add a few drops of the silicone to the dark blue, so we'll get those cell formations in the dark blue paint as it dries. So I added probably about 4 drops. You just drop it in and stir it up. Now one other thing, when you're stirring up your paints with the Floetrol, you want to stir the paint in a circular motion. Don't get real vigorous with it because you don't want to incorporate air bubbles into your stirring. You just want it to be nice and smooth. If you do get some air bubbles, you can take a little spritzer bottle with 91% alcohol and spray that on top, and that will take the air bubbles out. Now, we're going to do what they call a dirty pour, where we're going to pour all of our paint into the cup, and then we're going to take our canvas and turn it over, flip it up like this, set our canvas down, and then let the paint flow out and lift the cup up. So here we go. First we're going to pour in some white. Then we're going to pour in some of this blue. And let me push this closer so you can see it better. Can you see down into that? And then we're going to add some gold. Maybe it's a little bit thick yet. We'll go with it. And then we'll go for some purple. And you can keep adding and adding and adding as many colors as you want. When you pick your colors, though, you have to remember that these are going to be mixing, so that when you think about colors on the color wheel, like if you use red and green together, they're typically going to blend and make brown. So you want to be careful with the colors that you choose. So now we have all of our paint in our cup, and before I pour it, I just took it and ran the stir stick through it just like a little V, just to mix the paints just a tiny bit. Now we're going to start with our pour. We're going to turn our canvas upside down on the cup. We're going to turn it over, and then we're going to set it back down, and we're going to let it set for about 15 to 30 seconds to let the paint drain out of the cup. Okay, we've let it set. Now we're going to let the paint flow on the canvas. And we let it set, and now we're just going to gradually tilt the canvas and let the texture of the paint start appearing. And eventually we will have it run off the sides, and we'll let it cover the sides of the canvas too. And you just and then we're going to just continue this process. And see, you can see where we put the silicone in the blue, it's creating these really pretty cells. And then if there's an area where you want to change a little bit, you can always drop a little bit more paint in there. So like in this area right here where it's kind of all the colors have kind of run together, we can just drop in a little bit more blue paint. or we can try to scrape out what's in that cup, onto the canvas. And just kind of drop that in there. Ooh, look at that, those fun textures in there. And just drop that right there. And we'll take some of that and just kind of put it over here. Like that. And so our canvas is completely covered with paint now, and so what you want to do is take your one of your stir sticks and just run it along the edge, because the canvas, the ink is going to collect along the bottom of the canvas, and you want to have a clean surface. And you want to do that, let it sit for an hour or so, and then clean it off again, clean those drips off again. But if you look closely, you can see all the great texture you're getting, the silicone added in that blue paint. Now, if you want an even more intense effect with the silicone drops, you can take a heat torch or a butane, a lighter, and hold it close to the surface, but don't touch it. The heat helps pull that silicone out. But I didn't do that for this. I'm just going to let it sit like it is. Now, this will actually take a couple of days to dry. If you wanted, Molly is telling us that somebody's here, so
it is okay. Do not panic.
So you can also, if you want, you can keep tilting it, and the more you tilt it, the more variation you'll get in the different textures of the paint, or you can move the color around a little bit more. So we're just going to set this aside now and let it dry. Now, since our video is already getting a little bit long, we're not going to actually do the rocks this time. Now we're going to pour a rock. I've mixed all my leftover paints into this jar, or into this cup, and then I'm just going to, this is the messy part, so I'm just going to pour the paint over the rock. And just kind of, you can pour it straight on the rock, you can go back and forth, you can just kind of swirl it however you want it to go. And see, you can already see some of those cells forming, which just makes this one of the things I really love about this process. And if you want, you can hold it up and pour on the back side also, which we're going to just pour a little bit of paint back there and let it swirl around. And again, so you can see those cells coming out on the paint. And then we're just going to set this down and let it dry.
Make sure it's on your tinfoil podium. You don't want paint pooling on the bottom.
Yes, Shane is right. We want to make sure you don't have any paint pooling on the bottom and sticking to the rock. You'll get a little bit on the tinfoil from where we poured ink, paint there, but after a couple of days you can lift that up and just kind of dab off the part that isn't dry with a paper towel. So now we're just going to let this dry and let the paint do its thing.